Hey y'all, welcome. Hopefully this week y'all can hear me. We won't talk about last week's snafu. Come on in the room. Hey y'all, come on in. Thanks for being here. I see y'all coming in. Hey. Virtual waves. Well, these are real waves. Y'all can send me some virtual waves. It's your girl, Dawn Michelle. Hey, come on in. Oh, I got Big Beats. We got the investment lady, the concierge realtor. All right, we got some people in the building tonight. How y'all doing? I am excited to be here. We've got a lot to go over today. We've got a special guest, so I'm glad you are with me. Welcome to the Sunday Setup. It's your girl. I'm Dawn Michelle, and I'm glad you are back for another week, another edition of the Sunday Setup. Today, let's get right on into it. Let's talk about our week. Let's reflect on the week that we had. There are a couple of things during my week that I can actually say I was proud of. I mean, it may not seem like a big deal, but I was able to get off work on time. And that's a big deal in my household because sometimes I'm working to 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you know, but to whom much is given, what they say, much is required. So you can be thankful for those promotions, but then you realize you got to put a lot of work in for those. So balancing is not always easy. So I am thankful that I was able to get off work on time this week. What were y'all thankful for? Any big accomplishments this week for you? And if you can't hear me, please give me a sign. I don't want to go on like I did last week and you couldn't hear me. I want to make sure everybody can hear me. If you can just leave me a little comment there and say you can hear me, all good, thumbs up. Before I get too deep into the weeds. Are we good on your end, everyone? Thanks for joining. All right, so let's talk about some of the stuff that happened this week outside of things that we were able to accomplish. Let's get right into it. Thank you, the Realtor Monique. Thank you, the investment lady. I appreciate you because y'all understand where I was last week. So we're improving week by week. So let's get into it. Nia Long. Nia Long. Okay. She has been in this relationship with this man, the coach, I think, is it Boston? I don't even know. But he's a coach, pro basketball team. And allegedly he's been doing some things he should not be doing. And they have a 10-year-old child. I didn't even realize they were together that long. But apparently he has some side goings on with someone at the team. And Nia seemed to have been blindsided. I've seen all kinds of memes this week with people talking about, Nia, call me. I'm sure her DMs have blown up. So it just lets you know that everybody's human. So it doesn't matter if you're Halle Berry, Nia Long, anybody can go through it. Look at J-Lo. Isn't she gone through like, I don't know how many relationships, and she finally got back to, I guess, where she was happy with Ben. So God bless her. So shout outs to Nia Long. Prayers out to you and your family because it's really tough when it's happening, but it's even more disappointing when it's happening in the public eye. So shout out to Nia Long. Big news we heard today, Rihanna, Super Bowl. That's going to be epic. I will be there. I'm usually only at the Super Bowl. Well, not at the Super Bowl. I'm watching the Super Bowl for the commercials. I love a little good football. But Rihanna, halftime, honey, I'm here for it. So shouts out to Rihanna. Congratulations for that. That's going to be epic. Last year's Super Bowl, this Super Bowl that passed was epic. So I don't know what's going on in the NFL offices, but apparently they're having meetings and they're trying to jazz up what we see during the halftime. Because, honey, I'm here for it. So shout out to Rihanna. And last thing I'm going to touch on, Takashi 6ix9ine, I think that's what you call him. I don't know too much about him except when I hear negative stuff in the news. So all I know is I saw a video of him. I think he's in Dubai, and he got into a fist fight with the DJ because he wasn't playing his music allegedly. Listen, people, he got way more money than most of us, and he's out there acting a fool. I think when you go to other countries, you got to know what the laws are. I mean, look at Brittany Griner. Like, gosh, really sucks that she's over there. I feel like they're making an example of her. But, like, I hope she doesn't do all the time that they sentence her to. I really do. And I hope she learns from this. But I hope the bigger lesson here is, if you're going to other countries, you got to understand their laws, their traditions. Don't go out there acting a fool, because then if something happens and you get locked up, now it's like, America, where y'all at? Y'all gonna come help me? And I get that, you know, because we're America and everything, but at what point do you have to be responsible for your own actions? Because I'm not going over to Dubai and, you know, I understand, I don't think my lifestyle would be appreciated in Dubai, but if I want to go, I better act like I don't know my wife. Not going to happen. That's why we're not going to Dubai. But I'm saying, you got to understand where you're going. When in Rome, you do as the Romans do. So we'll see what happens with Takashi in the coming days, because that was ridiculous. Might need a little bit of anger management. So, well, I've gotten that all out of the way. As always, I'm going to say this is a safe place. It's about positivity and love. If you have something to say, you can definitely leave it in the comments. If you have a question for our guest, go ahead and hit that little question icon, and you can type that in when we get done speaking with her. You can go ahead and we'll address those questions. So, without further ado, my special guest is somebody I've known for some years now. Her name is Monique Bowen. She is a licensed Georgia realtor. And we're going to talk about first-time home buyers and what to expect, what to think about, some tips, you know, just all kinds of things that you might need to know or might want to know. What are your options? What's out there? So, Monique, if you're in the room, I think you are. Let's go ahead and get you in here. She's coming in the room in just a second. I'm excited. This is my first guest, y'all. There she is. Hey,
hello.
hey, all right. We've got Miss Monique Bowen in the building. So
Yes, thank you for having me.
thank you for being here. You are my very first guest on the Sunday setup. I felt like, you know, with this platform I've been given with Swagger Magazine, I want to be able to highlight entrepreneurs and people who are out there doing their thing, you know, who are making a difference. And I know today we're going to talk about first-time home buyers. You were my realtor. I should say you are my realtor, because if I ever buy something else, I'm trying to buy a boat, I'm calling you, you know, so. So tell my audience, tell us about yourself. Give me a little background on Miss Monique.
All right. So again, I am a licensed realtor in the state of Georgia. I can sell anywhere in Georgia. I can technically, if you want it, I can sell you anything in the country, because I have a full network of people backing me up in other cities and states. So if you just let me know, hey, I'm moving to Nevada, I need a realtor, I can be like, okay, let me make a call, let me send an email and get you a realtor. I've been doing real estate since 2019. I got licensed. In February, my business jumped in 2020 once COVID happened. Interestingly, interest rates were super low, so people wanted to buy then. So I've been just busy doing real estate now. I love it. I actually got into it kind of on a whim. I was working in hotels and I got comfortable, right? So I was at Hyatt and I was in management, and I started to feel myself change. So I decided to leave management and demote myself and move back to Atlanta. And it was a decision that was kind of tough, but not really, because I'm a strong believer now, which I didn't know at the time, in self-care and mental health, right? Those are two things that I now very much so pride. And if you mess up those, you can't be around me, kind of thing. So I was talking to my boyfriend at the time, and he was like, well, what else do you like to do? You're comfortable. And I'm like, I know. But what else can I do? And I didn't know what else to do. And I was like, well, I do watch a lot of HGTV. I was like, maybe I can sell some houses. That looks fun. And that's how I got into it. Needless to say, I took a class for 2 weeks. Usually most people take about a 6 to 8 week course to do the licensing. Listen, I said take these 2 weeks of vacation and let me go do this license. And I took 2 weeks off of work and went and got licensed in February 2019. And I became active, and I had my first sale in March of 2020. I'm sorry, May of 2020. And I've
Okay.
loved it ever since. I'm enjoying it. First time
That's
home buyers are my
awesome.
favorite people to work with.
That's awesome. Because I know a little background on how I met you was in the hospitality industry. We both worked for
Mhm.
Hyatt hotels. And when I saw that you were in real estate, I was like, and I knew in my head, because I had reached out to you even
Mhm.
before I met my wife, because I was like, Mo, this apartment living, I don't know if this is for me for the long term.
Right.
What are my options? And years ago, you were even schooling me, well, right after you had gotten started, you were schooling me on what some of my options were. So,
Mhm.
that really helps me. And thankfully, I have a wife who has purchased more than one home before, but this was my first time buying a home. So I
Right.
wanted somebody, especially that I trusted, and that was you because you knew me, and I
Mhm.
felt like I could tell you what I wanted to, I could tell you what I was looking for. You were going to be honest with me. You were going to tell me whether that was realistic or it wasn't. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that people who are thinking about home ownership or, scared, like maybe it's not for me. I don't know. Do I make enough? Was my credit
Mhm.
good? Like, down payment's got to be 50,000. Like, what would you say to somebody, who's thinking about it?
Yeah, so I feel like I get a lot of people, and I'm here for educating. I'm all about educating people on the home buying process. But I do tell people to ask the necessary questions. If you don't know what it is that you want, maybe somebody can talk you through it. But if you know the type of house you want, that's like the foundation of it. And then next, you need to find a lender, find a realtor that you trust. Make sure you get somebody that you trust, and because they're going to be your partner in crime for however long it takes you to find a home. I had a client, we looked for a house for 11 months before we found anything. And it was just because it was in 2021, interest rates were low. Investors were coming into Atlanta, buying up a ton of homes over list price. So we're a good thing is we're out of that phase now of investors spending $100,000 over list price. But we're still in a market that is you got to pack your patience with.
Mm,
And then the house prices are becoming more steady. They're staying on the market a little bit longer, but it is still a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market yet. And then I do get a lot of people that are like, well, are we going to go into a recession? Are we going to have the same thing that happened in 2008? And the reality is no, not right now. Like I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, because the lending requirements are a lot more strict now than they were in 2008. So in 2008,
mm,
you can get a loan just based off of what you tell them, and you tell them what you make, you tell them how often you're paid, you tell them these things, but you're not having to provide any paperwork to back it up. Versus now, you got to submit W-2s, bank statements, you got to produce sometimes they're asking for credit card statements to find out about debts to income. You also have to worry about student loans and things like that. So
mm.
it's definitely a lot more strict now in terms of buying versus when it was in 2008. So we won't have the same thing that happened then happen now. But it's key. Kind of know what you want going into it. Know the type of house you want at least. Do you want to be in a single family home? Do you want to be in a townhome? Are you okay with still having somebody that you're attached to in a townhome? Or do you want to not have to deal with that and just be on an acre of land by yourself? Or are you okay with a smaller yard? Um, and I know this instance for some folks is we may not think about the small things. So if you have a one car garage when you're buying, right?
Mhm,
But then you decide later now you want a 2 car garage.
mhm.
And but that's you can't change that. That's not something you can change about the house. That's a structural thing. So just kind of know what you want going into it is definitely key. So find the
Absolutely.
right lender, find the right realtor, because they're going to be your best friends for however long it takes you to find a house, and ask the necessary questions in terms of when you're choosing a lender, what type of loan type you want. So kind of do a little bit of research too.
So what do you think, like, like somebody who just doesn't know, or somebody who's watching now and they're like, well, I want to buy a house, but I don't know anybody. Like, do you think that word of mouth is the best way to find somebody? Like, how does somebody find someone to be their realtor? Like, if they
Mhm.
literally have no idea, anything about the home buying process. They just know, I want to buy a house. Should they just, if they see something on the side of the road, this realtor, do they just stop in there and ask? Should they trust that? Should they try to find, maybe ask people they work with, hey, who did you deal with? Get referrals. What do you think is the best way for somebody who just does not know where to start?
A realtor's ideal way of getting clients is wanting to get a referral from somebody. So definitely ask the people around you if you know anyone that has purchased a home. But we also get a lot of people. So I'm a part of a brokerage called Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Metro Brokers. We are the largest real estate company in the state, right? We have a lot of billboards around the city. So we do get a lot of leads because Better Homes and Gardens is a brand on its own. So people look at it, oh, I trust that brand. I've been reading their magazines. I've seen their magazines in the stores. And so there's different ways. It just honestly just depends on the individual as to how you find someone. But even if you call a place, even if you call Better Metro Brokers, for short, I call them Metro Brokers. But you call Metro Brokers and you're like, hey, I want an agent. And they pair you up with somebody that you don't necessarily gel with. Okay. You can go back and be like, hey, I'm not really gelling with this person. Can I have a different agent? Or you can ask the agent themselves, hey, we're not really gelling. But do an interview. And I'm saying that in the interview process, not 5 months down the line after you've been working with them and you signed a buyer brokerage agreement. Don't do it then. But you do an interview. I'm totally fine. Most realtors do free consultations. So we'll do a buyer consultation with you. We'll find out whether or not we work well, our personalities work well with each other, and make a decision from there. So definitely meet with the individual. And if you don't think it's going to work out from that first meeting, move on.
Okay. So what do you think are the things that someone needs to think about? There you go.
I'm in my mobile office and the light went off.
That's that entrepreneurship right there. You got to be on the go because, yes. I think you said you were showing some homes tonight. And
yes.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here because I know you're always working. So what are the things that first-time home buyers need to think about when they're preparing themselves for home ownership?
So part of it is you need to think about whether or not you want to do a lease to own program. Like, are you able to do a lease to own program, or do you want to just straight up buy a house? The loan types. Do you want to do a VA loan if you're a veteran? Do you want to do a FHA loan, which you're going to have a little bit of a lower interest rate, but maybe higher payments because now you have to pay for mortgage insurance? Or do you want to go with a conventional loan where you don't have to worry about mortgage insurance, but now they have a conventional loan where you can pay mortgage insurance for the first 10 years, and in the last 20 years, it goes off because at some point you start to meet this ratio. So yeah,
well, what about, you mentioned like rent to own, because I know when I first reached out to you, I had seen commercials for some of these rent to owns, and I was like, ooh, tell me more. Like, maybe this is my way into home ownership. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So in Georgia, I'm actually affiliated with 3 of them. Home Partners of America is probably my favorite one. If you have an issue with saving and you want to be forced to save, you can go through Divvy. So you're going to have a higher monthly rental amount, or you can go through, I said Home Partners of America, Divvy, and why am I drawing a blank on the third one? Goodness gracious.
Is that the HPA? I don't know.
HPA, that's Home Partners of America. Okay. Oh, Dream America is the third one. There we go. Okay. So with each of them, they each have their own requirements in terms of credit score, in terms of employment, in terms of the purchase price that they will buy. Like Home Partners of America, they won't buy a house more than 500,000. Divvy, they won't purchase a home for less than 100,000. So just kind of with lease to own programs. So what you pretty much are doing is you're having a company, the lease to own program company they're going to buy a home for you with cash. So
Mhm.
now you have this cash offer that looks stronger than somebody that may be financed and you know you're going to close. They typically will close within like 22 to 28 days. So it's a little bit faster than it would be if you were doing a mortgage. And then you will pay them for you to live in the house. Once they close on the house, you'll then move in a certain number of days after they purchase the house. And you will then pay them monthly until you're ready. Like Divvy, I think you can live in the house for up to 3 years, and Home Partners, I believe, is up to 5 years. Maybe vice versa. Now that I think about it. But either way, you get a few number of years. And when you get your contract, you know whether or not your rent is going to, you know, what price your rent is going to go up to the following year. So each year is telling you ahead of time what your rent is going to be for year 2, year 3, year 4. Is going to tell you how much you're going to have to pay for rent for those years. So that's the good thing about that versus renting, because you don't know. It's always a surprise how much you're going to take your rent up.
Especially in
So
Georgia.
listen, and especially in Atlanta,
That's true.
listen,
That's
they
true.
will take your rent up $200 on a whim. Like you don't even know it's about to go up $200, and rather than
Absolutely.
like $50. So,
Okay.
that
So what if
you really start.
let me ask you this. So if you're doing something like that, do you have to buy it at the end? Like, do some people use that just to see, am I comfortable with this type of payment? You
Mhm.
know, and then say, okay, is there an option if at the end of the contracted time, like I don't know, 3 years or 5 years, that they can back out and say, you know what, I don't want to fully buy this. Maybe the home
Mhm.
ownership isn't for me right now. Is there an option for
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, so it's different with each company. So you can choose to back out and walk away from it at any time, even if you're during, it's not at the end of it, but if you're like in the middle of it and you're like, okay, I'm at 18 months in and I know I no longer want this house. I need to move out of state, whatever it may be. You
Mhm.
can back out. Sometimes there's penalties, sometimes there's not. So like with Divvy, you're to have that forced savings. So they'll give you back a portion of it.
Okay. And when you say forced savings, like, is that like, say, I'm just going to throw a number out there. If your mortgage is 1,000, they may make your monthly payment 1,500 or something, or like they may add on top of whatever your technical mortgage payment is and make that a forced type savings.
Yeah, so it's usually not $500 that's the difference, but it will
Mhm.
be more so maybe $100 a month
Okay.
or $300 a month.
Okay.
Not this, I haven't come across a situation where a client had to pay $500 more
Okay.
a month for their forced savings. But it's that way to help them get their down payment once the time comes that
Ooh.
they're ready to buy the house. It's also there to help them be able to pay their uh like the escrows and things like that. That when they are ready to purchase the house. So pretty much their closing costs. It'll help with
Okay.
that. So
Oh,
now
that sounds
they
like.
should ideally still be saving on the side if they can, and
Mhm.
then have them with the forced savings, because you're gonna need thousands of dollars to purchase a house. You can't go and purchase a house with no money. You got to have
Okay.
some kind of skin in the game. Even with down payment assistance programs, they require you have some kind of skin in the game.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one way, like one path maybe into home ownership. Say if you're ready to go or you think you're ready to go. One of the things I didn't know about until I was, going through the process of buying my first home, and you were like, okay, you need this earnest money. I was like, who earnest? And why he need my money? So can you talk about what that is and kind of like things you need to think of and prepare before
Oh
you
yeah.
enter the game?
Yeah. So one, think about your down payment. You know, the lender's going to tell you how much money you can afford, how much house you can afford.
Okay.
So if they tell you 400,000, you need to know that your your earnest money is going to be approximately 1 to 2% of the sales price of the house. You want to have that one. You also need to know that you're going to have to pay for your home inspection, which is roughly about $500, depends on the type of house. It can be a little lower, a little bit higher, depending on the inspector, as well as depending on the size of the house. Because the larger the house, the more expensive it is. You also
Mm.
have to think about, do you want to do radon testing? That's also going to be part of your inspection process, because in Georgia, we live around a lot of stone. Stone Mountain, for example, has a lot of granite. So we
Okay.
have a lot of radon that is in the air, in the earth, and things like that. So if you want to get that and you have an issue, by the way, radon is it's a You can't smell it, you can't see it, and it's a gas.
Okay.
So it'll just be in the house, and they just put a machine in the house, and you want as little activity going on in the house, so doors opening and closing, so air coming in from outside to kind of get your test done. And then once you get, but also I forgot, let me step back a second. Radon can cause cancer.
Oh.
So that's why it's something that's important to kind of know if you want to do it or not. If you are high risk for cancer and things like that, you would definitely want to try to look into that. And then there's also mediation. I know that's a little bit jumping off, but you got to think about that, because if you do the radon test, now you find out you got high radon levels. Now you need to worry about paying for mediation happening. So now we got our earnest money. We have our inspector costs.
What is earnest money? Like, again, I didn't know what earnest was.
Okay, so earnest money is your good faith deposit. It's letting the seller know that you're serious about buying this house. The higher the number, the better. You can get that money back if you cancel the contract within your due diligence period. Due diligence period is the time for you to inspect the home and see if this is something you want to buy. You can cancel the contract, terminate the contract for any reason during due diligence period with giving no information to the seller. If you terminate the contract after your due diligence period, you lose your earnest money. Okay. So you want to know that you're going into this house seriously. If you have a 4-day, or if you're lucky enough in this market to get a 7-day due diligence period, you have literally those 7 days to get whatever inspections, or if you want repairs done to the house, you can get your quotes on that. If you want to do any other kind of testing on the house, you can do that. If you need to do a lead-based paint test, you do it all during that due diligence period, because after that, you literally have no way to get out of that contract or commitment to buying that house unless your financing falls through.
Wow. Okay. So let me ask.
If you have a financing contingency, I'm sorry. If you have a financing contingency, if you don't have a financing contingency, you just lose your money altogether. Okay.
So if someone comes into an office and says, I'm looking to buy a home and whatnot, do they already need to, what's the first step in that process? Do they need to find a lender first? Like, maybe if their bank, say they bank with bank or whoever, do they go to that bank and say, hey, I'm trying to buy a house, and try to get approval first? Or do they come to you first? Like, what should they be doing first? Or does it start with finding a good realtor?
I'm torn on the two, because I think they need to be done at the same time.
Okay.
Finding a good realtor, most people will say you need to do that first. I'm kind of torn, because I feel like you need to find the two at the same time. But if you don't know the buying process, I'm going to say find a realtor first, get the information from them. I'm the person that's going to tell you, before we can get out and go see a house, I need you to get approved by a lender. I'm going to suggest to any of my clients to get 2 quotes from lenders. Okay. So I'll give you my preferred lender. You go to them, give them your information. As long as you don't run your credit with more than twice, and some people say 3 times within 14 days, it counts as one inquiry.
Okay.
And it won't affect your credit score. But if you do multiple, so you do 3, 4, 5, after that 14-day period, it will definitely start to affect your credit. Okay. So I say they're intertwined. Find a realtor and find a lender at the same time. And then I say get a second quote, because you never know. Say you want to go through your bank. My preferred lender is actually a mortgage broker, so she can get mortgages from different companies and loan programs. Versus if you go through a bank or a credit union, they literally only have whatever loan types and programs that they have in-house with that particular bank. So I still say go and get a quote from whoever you bank with, and then get one from a mortgage broker.
Okay, awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about the different types of loan programs? Because I know you mentioned like FHA, VA. I know we have a lot of veterans, especially here in Georgia. Like, what's available for our vets?
Vets actually get 100% lending. They actually don't have to pay a down payment on a house, but they still do have to pay closing costs if they're 100%. Meaning, if they get 100% benefits, they don't necessarily have to pay, some of the things that other home buyers have to pay. So it's a real benefit if you're a vet and you have that option available to you. do it because you don't have to do that. That's the biggest perk with VA is you don't have to have a down payment. And when I say 100%, so they'll lend you 100% of what the house is worth. So if the house appraises for 500,000, they'll give you 500,000.
Wow.
I do want to kind of sidetrack and give a misconception that people think. They think that if they get approved for 500,000, they can go buy a house for 450,000, for example, and then they get that 50,000 to be able to work with later. That's not true. That the lender is only going to lend you money on the appraisal price of the house. So even if you overbid, so you were approved for 450, you found a house and went under contract for 465, it appraises now for 450. They're still only going to give you 450. So you have to either come up with that $15,000 difference, or you have to go back to the seller and negotiate and have them come down on the price. Or you would then at that point have to terminate if you have an appraisal contingency or clause in your contract.
Okay.
And be able to get your earnest money back. So VA loan, sorry, I love the sidetrack, right? So FHA loan, FHA loans are really good right now. Their interest rates are a little bit lower than a conventional interest rate. So a FHA interest rate, I haven't looked at the numbers this weekend or on Friday. I didn't look at the numbers and I should have. But they are always a little bit lower than a conventional rate would be. So you have the FHA rate's going to be lower, but you have to pay that monthly mortgage insurance. So you're going to pay that on the life of the loan. And then you have conventional loans where you can, let me talk about the loan to value on that one. So I said the VA loans are 100% loan to value. With FHA, they're typically about 96.5%. So your down payment would then be 3.5% of the house, of the price of the house.
So they'll take care of that 90 whatever percent, and then the buyer
your down payment is at 3.5%.
Okay.
And then you also have your conventional loans, which are typically 10% or more down, but they do have a product now where it's 3% down. So and then you only have, but with the 3% one, you will have to pay mortgage insurance for the first 10 years of the loan. And then after that, usually right now people are doing and this is all speaking on a 30-year loan.
Okay. And
but conventional rates are higher. Interest rates are higher than the FHA. And you have a higher monthly payment. Slightly lower monthly payment.
Okay.
On the conventional.
Conventional versus FHA. Okay. So what about credit? Like, do you have to have perfect credit? Does the credit affect like your interest rate? Like what role does credit play? I know it plays a role, but
it plays a major role. And I can't speak a whole lot on the lending side because I'm not a licensed mortgage person. But I can say it does play a major role, and you would want, there's some loan programs that'll get you down to a 620. That'll take a loan, at 620, but again, you're going to probably have a higher interest rate. But then there's others where ideally you would want to be 650, 680 to get a little bit of a better interest rate.
Gotcha.
Again, talk to your lender or your mortgage professional on that sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some of the mistakes that people make when they get approved for a mortgage and they're in between approval and closing? Because closings can range from how long? Like, how long are closing periods generally? And what are some of the mistakes that people make when they're waiting to close?
From contract to close, so from the time that offer is accepted to close, it depends on the lender. It can be as little as 25 days. It can be as many as 45 days. It also depends on the loan program and if you're using like a down payment assistance program. Down payment assistance programs here in Atlanta tend to take a little bit longer to close. And then that's another topic. What's the second part of your question?
What are some of the pitfalls?
People, listen, when you're trying to buy a house, from the time that you have a lender run your credit, don't do anything. It's like the world needs to stop for you. Stop going outside. Stop buying furniture. Don't
Just
think that you're
sit
about to buy a
still.
house and then just go buy a bunch of furniture and then buy a new car. Because
Mm,
then if it messes with your DTI too much, debt to income, if it messes with that too much, you can no longer buy a house.
mm.
You can
Because
know, so
I
don't.
mean, they're like checking all the time, right? Like because I know when we were buying our home, I didn't want to go through the drive-through and swipe my card. I was like, cash only. Mm-mm. Because I was so scared. Like, because I hear that, some people will, get approved and then go and quit their job. Like,
That too. Yeah, don't quit your job. Mm-mm. Don't quit your job because, and even if you are thinking about switching jobs, have a conversation with your lender to
mhm.
find out if that job is still in a field or if they have a way where they can still get you approved for this loan with that new job. So
Like
like
maybe like,
usually you need to
uh-huh.
you need to be employed with the same employer for 2 years, a
Okay.
minimum of 2 years for them to give you a loan.
Okay.
And then you also, again, like somebody said in the comments, no cars, no new credit lines. Don't do those things. Don't go out and buy a ton of furniture. Don't go out and be like, oh, I need a credit card for this new vacation I'm about to take. The vacation's
Mm,
already paid for, but I need a new credit card to pay for my spending limits. Don't do
mm.
that because now you have a new piece of debt that's rolling in that you got to explain. And then even if you have inquiries on your credit report when you go to apply for a loan, if you get approved, you may get a conditional approval, and they are going to ask you, okay, so what is this credit inquiry for?
Mhm.
Why did you do this
Mhm.
credit inquiry? I
Okay.
have, although, had an instance where a client's car went out while they were in the process of buying a home, but they had that conversation with their lender, and the
Okay.
lender said, okay, if this is going to happen, this is going to happen, you can go out and buy a new car.
Oh,
But that
that's
conversation has to be had with the
okay.
lender before you
Right.
go out and make that. And your answer may not be yes. Your answer
Mm,
may be you need to wait until you close on this house in order to get this.
right.
And I even tell people for 48 hours after you purchase a house, don't go out and make major purchases because your
Mhm.
loan hasn't been completely closed yet after closing.
Wait
It's
a minute. So
still,
you mean to tell me even after you got your keys?
I tell people 48 hours because I don't want them to
Wow.
pull that loan from under you. And because they're like,
Wow.
oh, you the one that quit your job 2 days after?
Like
Or
I
you
got
had
my
a
freedom
2 week
out.
notice in?
Okay,
Yeah,
that's really good note. That's really good to
yeah.
know.
And
'Cause-
even you mentioned earlier about they're pulling your credit multiple times. They really are. They pull
mm,
your credit at the beginning when you do a loan application. They do a hard pull. And then throughout the process, especially like up to a couple days before closing or day of closing, they still may be doing soft inquiries on your credit to find out if you have any new debt that has come in. They also do a employment verification the
mm.
day of 2 days before closing. If you're set to close on a Monday, best believe on Friday or Thursday they called to see if you still had a
To make
job.
sure you're still working. Wow. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
very stressful time. And let me tell you, I was super stressed just because I
You
had
have
never
to
been
practice
through it before.
patience.
My wife was like, we good. What's wrong? But I'm like, I was worried, because I think
Yeah.
we had a trip planned. But we spoke
Mm-hmm.
to the lender. I was like, listen, ladies, I'll cancel it if I need to. They was like, no, you're okay. But I had that conversation. They were like, just
Mm-hmm.
don't go spending a whole bunch of money while you're gone. But you've
Exactly.
already paid for this. It's fine. But I still had that conversation. So it's important
Mm-hmm.
to put that out there that, if something is inevitable because you've already paid for the trip, or like you said, somebody's car went out. If they know they have to get another car, have those conversations. Like you said, they may be like, don't do it, but you still
Mm-hmm.
need to have those conversations.
Exactly. It's key.
So,
That conversation is key. You have to be very honest. That's why I say find a realtor and a lender that you can trust because you
mhm,
have to be very honest with that individual. You're going to have to treat that person like your best friend and
yeah.
you tell them everything under the rainbow.
And we had
Because you don't want anything to keep pulling you from under there.
yeah.
I do want to answer one question that somebody had in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
They asked, is it a good idea to take a first-time homebuyer class and can you take more than one? Yes, I think it is a good idea to take a home buyer's class or seminar. Some down payment assistance programs do require you to take a home buyer class that is 8 hours, especially Atlanta Housing Authority, which gives, right now they're giving $20,000 in down payment assistance. And if you are a educator or a first responder, so firefighter, police officer, they give you an additional $5,000. So $25,000 total if you are in a first responder. But $20,000 for the normal person. But you
Okay.
have to be, and I know we hadn't got on down payment assistance programs yet, but with Atlanta Housing Authority, you have to be in Atlanta proper. You can't just
Okay.
have an
And what's
Atlanta
considered Atlanta
address.
proper?
Yes, so Atlanta proper is considered anything that has an Atlanta public school district. So if the
Mhm.
high school in the house that you're looking at, you on the listing service, you can see what the high school is. You just Google that high school, and if it says it's an Atlanta public school,
Mhm.
then you
Okay.
can, that will be eligible. That's considered Atlanta proper, because you can be in Atlanta, your address can be Atlanta, but it's Fulton County schools,
Mhm.
or you can be in Atlanta, but it's is it Clayton County? I believe is, they have a couple schools that are
Mhm.
or maybe it's DeKalb. I think it's actually DeKalb. There's a couple schools that are DeKalb County and
Okay.
not Atlanta public schools.
Okay. So tell me, I know you were talking about some perks and like some things that if anybody wants to work with you on their home buying journey, like tell them about what you have to offer.
Yeah, so all of my clients at the end of our process, you do get set up for a service to receive, what do you call them? Oh, I hate when I draw a blank. um to receive collateral or like gifts throughout the year, throughout the time after we've worked together. So that process actually is up to 5 years. It's not anything that you have to pay for. I honestly do it automatically for all of my clients. I also offer, after you've purchased a home, maybe you've been there a year or two and you want to know, hey, what's the value of my house? How much equity have I received, have I gotten? I can do a competitive market analysis to find out what the homes in your area are selling for, kind of give you an idea of what I think your house is now worth. I offer that free to my clients upon request. And then you also get a discount with gas companies. So if the home that you're moving into has gas service to it, I have a partnership with Georgia Natural Gas, SCANA, and Gas South, where you can get discounts or a gift card available to you after signing up. And that's actually for anybody. So I can give that particular perk to anybody. So if you're moving into a new apartment and you're getting new service with a gas company, just let me know. I'll send you the code. You can get a discount on your gas bill and or your gift card.
Okay.
I also, listen, we have become best friends after we bought a house. I call all my clients my best friends. And that won't be the last time you see me. Closing day will not be the last day you see me. I
Yeah.
do like to see my clients at least once a year. I always tell them, hey, invite me back to the housewarming. I want to be there. I want to celebrate you and this purchase that you have made, because buying a house is pretty much people's biggest purchase they ever make in their lifetime, right? Especially if you can do it multiple times. I'm there so that people can get to know me. They like me. They trust me. I work off referrals. I love a referral. So if you like me enough to send me a referral after we've closed on the house, great. It's not a requirement. I'll still work with you. And then last but not least, I do offer, during the process of buying a house, our concierge service with Metro Broker, or Better Homes and Gardens, where you can get assistance with setting up your utilities, transferring utilities. They'll send you coupons as well for different stores in your area, and you actually get a concierge that's going to do those things for you and come back with quotes for different places. Even if you needed a quote on moving companies, they'll do that for you. So those are all things that I offer. Some of the things, I should say, I offer to all of my clients.
Okay. So if you could, sum it up, like what are the things that you want to let the first time home buyers or people who are thinking about it know as they
Mm-hmm.
prepare for that journey?
I want them to, one, pack your patience. It's not going to be an easy process. It is something that some days you may go home and cry about because you're like, oh my God, I just cannot find the house. I really thought that was it. And it may not have been the house, but trust the process. I tell people what's meant for you will be for you. You'll get it. Do your research, ask the questions. No question is a stupid question to ask your realtor. If it's something that you want to know, you're curious about, hey, my friend told me this. Is this true? Or
Yeah.
I read this stat online. Is this true? Like, ask your realtor, ask your lender, find out those things that you want to know. Don't be shy. Don't be closed-lipped. And again, just find people that you trust. Know what route you want to go with buying. Do you want to do lease to own? Do you want to straight up buy? Do you want a single family? Do you want a townhome? Are you okay with putting a little bit of work into it? These are all questions that I asked during my first consultation with people before you even sign the agreement that bonds us together for the next 6 months or whatever it may be. Yeah, just ask those questions. We are here as a funnel of education. I actually host home buyer seminars throughout the year. So I actually am planning one for this winter. So just follow me if you want to right here at the Realtor the Realtor _ Mo B, MOE, the letter B. And I can, you can stay up to date. You can get added to a list of people I contact once I'm ready to have another one. But I do like to do those. You can actually go back to my reels. I did an Instagram live week of talking to different people about the home buying process that I would normally bring into my in-person home buyer seminar. I actually did an IG live with them and they're recorded. So you can double over there if you want to learn more from a lender, you want to learn more from a home inspector, you want to learn more from a home warranty expert. I brought all three of those people in.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like a one-stop shop, little setup right there.
It is. If you want something quick, you need to know an answer quick, and maybe it was answered in there. Or if you want to shoot me a DM or shoot me a text, you can text me from my profile as well.
Awesome. Well, I know that, you're not just into real estate. You do a couple other things, but that I want you to briefly tell me about a couple other things you do, and I'm probably going to bring you back on another show because we probably go on and on. But tell me what other things you're into as an entrepreneur. Just a little snippet.
Yes, I am what people call a serial entrepreneur, so I just don't know how to sit down. I am also a certified sexuality and intimacy coach. So I do that by night. I sell homes throughout the day. And then I am also in the process of starting a 360 business. So that's a 360 machine that kind of spins around.
Okay.
I'm also
a 360
yes,
photo.
a 360 photo booth. Yep. So that'll be launching in October, November. And then I'm also a consultant with Bedroom Candy, which is a lifestyle and intimacy company. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. I stay busy.
Do you have time for fun? Because that's important.
I do. Well, I love to travel. Well, it. Your followers don't, but I love to travel. So I definitely get my travel in throughout the year.
Okay. I think that's important because we're all about self-love and taking care of ourselves because we as women I think we try to work harder than everybody else because, a lot of it is expected of us. But we got to remember to make time for us to take care of us because if we don't, we're going to break down and then we'll be no good to anyone else. So you got to take care of yourself.
You really do. You definitely got to take time to yourself. And even if it's just taking the hour in the morning before you open your phone, open your email, start responding to people, maybe do some meditation, do some yoga. I work out 3 mornings a week for an hour and a half. That's a sense of my self-care. So you just find what works for you. I am a strong believer in self-care and self-love. So I'm here for it.
Well, I thank you, Monique, for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I will make sure that her information is available for those who are tuned in or who will tune in later. I appreciate you for being here we'll definitely have you back at another time so we could talk about some of your other endeavors, and we'll focus
Yeah.
that time next time on entrepreneurship and the things that you're doing. I appreciate you so much, and I thank you for being here. So
Thank you
you
for
can stay
having me.
around. I'm
Thank
about to
you
close it.
for giving me the platform to be able to do this and educate people. That's what I'm really big on, is educating people. I'm not stingy. If I have the information, I'm here to share it. So thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed that. Having the Realtor Mo B with us today. I'm heavy on the self-love. We were just talking about that. So whatever will allow you to recharge your batteries and be good to go for your day. Tomorrow is Monday. This is the Sunday setup. Do what you need to do today to set yourself up for tomorrow, and so that you can create a great week. And I did want to jump back. I know last week, for those who were here, we were talking about our tip from last week was about getting those tweezers. So I ordered some from Amazon. You can see this, and they had a little setup, a little number where this came with four different tweezers. And as I was telling y'all last week, for those who may not have been here, keep a pair of tweezers in all of your bags, so that if you ever run up on your car and somebody has left the tissue in your door handle, or a flyer for the club on your windshield, you just don't know if somebody has ill intentions with that, if they've laced it with something. Use your tweezers to take it off and throw the tweezers away. So I'll leave the information about this from Amazon um, as well. But thank you again, Realtor Mobi. She gave us our tips for the week. Remember to create the week that you want. They don't just happen. And to give yourself grace, because we're all human, and things don't always go according to plan, but we still gonna rock out regardless. So I thank y'all for being with me here today. It is the Sunday setup. I hope I've set you up a little bit so that you can have a great week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now go out there and create your great week. Bye, y'all.